Since the beginning of the 2022 Russo-Ukrainian War, Ukraine lost a lot of equipment. In this video, we listed the top 10 best Ukrainian weapons lost so far. Let's get started. Number 10 is the M2A2 ODS-SA Bradley. The first M2 Bradleys entered service in 1981 as a response to the Soviet BMP-1 and 2s. Interestingly, the Bradley was the first IFV in history that entered service with the U.S. Armed Forces. The M2A2 ODS-SA is a modernization of this vehicle that entered service in 2003. In this variant, the Bradley is equipped with, among others, a fully digital fire control system and additional armor, as a result of which the weight of the M2A2 ODS-SA is just over 34 tons. For comparison, the BWP-1 delivered from Poland weighs only 12.5 tons. Bradley in this variant weighs so much for a reason, because the vehicle provides protection for a crew of 3 and 7 passengers against artillery shrapnels from a very short distance, or 30mm autocannon rounds fired from Russian BMPs. The M2A2 ODS-SA's armament is located in a 2-man turret and is fully stabilized. It consists of a 7.62mm machine gun, a 25mm autocannon, and a dual-tube tow missile launcher. Interestingly, the Ukrainians received tow missiles in one of the newer variants, the BGM-71F TOW 2B, which can attack its target in a top attack mode. So far, Ukraine received from the United States 109 vehicles in the M2A2 ODS-SA configuration, and 4 M7 fire support vehicles. At the time of making this video, they've lost at least 17 M2A2 ODS-SAs, and at least 1 M7 fire support vehicle. Although on June 13th, there was information that the US would hand over another 15 Bradleys to make up for the losses. Number 9 is the Leopard 2A6. The Leopard 2A6, which entered service in the Bundeswehr in 2001, is a further development of the Leopard 2A5. The main differences of this 62 tons tank are enhanced frontal and side armor, as well as improved firepower. The Leopard 2A6 is armed with the Rheinmetall 120mm L55 smoothbore gun, which is a longer version of the earlier L44 used in the previous variants. It can use all older projectiles, like the DM33, but the longer gun's more accurate and allows the rounds to attain higher velocities, which turns into bigger penetration. So far, 21 Leopard 2A6s have been donated to Ukraine from Germany and Portugal. In addition, the Ukrainians received from the West 40 Leopard 2A4s, 10 Swedish STRV-122s, and 6 Leopard 2R heavy mine-breaching vehicles. At the time of making this video, confirmed losses are at least 3 Leopard 2A6s, at least 1 Leopard 2A4, and 3 Leopard 2Rs. Number 8 is the Su-24. Since the beginning of the Russo-Ukrainian War, Western countries have consistently refused to supply Ukraine with standoff weapons, fearing that their potential attack on targets deep inside Russian territory could draw NATO countries into the war. But finally, on May 11, 2023, the UK announced that it had delivered Storm Shadow cruise missiles to Ukraine. The only condition was the commitment of the Ukrainian side to not attack targets on Russian territory. However, due to the lack of deliveries of a Western-made aircraft, the missiles supplied from Great Britain with a range limited to 300 kilometers had to be integrated into the few obsolete Ukrainian Su-24M and MR aircraft. Thus, thanks to the supply of modern Western armament, these aircraft are of great importance, as they're now capable of attacking targets in the deep rear of the Russian-occupied Ukrainian territory, without much risk from hostile air defense. Used by both sides of the conflict, the Su-24 is a tactical bomber, which officially entered service on February 4, 1975. Before the war, Ukraine had 23 such aircraft in active service, and a dozen or so additional ones that were withdrawn many years ago, and were stored in one of the bases in the western part of Ukraine. So far, they've lost between 17 and 27 Su-24M and MR aircraft. Number 7 is the MiG-29. MiG-29, together with Su-27, guard the Ukrainian airspace as well as they can, and also constitute a platform for integration with modern weapons transferred from the West, such as AGM-88 HARM anti-radiation missiles or JDAM ER guided bombs with a range of over 70 kilometers. However, before the war, the Ukrainians managed to start a sensible modernization of only MiG-29 aircraft, which provides temporary capabilities until the planned purchase of Western multi-role aircraft. MiG-29s fought, among others, over Kyiv in the first days of the war, giving rise to the legend of the Ghost of Kyiv, the fighter ace shooting down multiple Russian planes over the capital. With a modernization to the MiG-29 Mu-1 standard, Russian-made elements were replaced with domestic or Western ones, and the aircraft was brought to NATO standards. They also received more modern Ukrainian radars and other onboard systems, which have increased the detection range of air targets. They were also adapted to carry new variants of armament. In total, 16 MiG-29s out of, depending on the source, 37 or 51 Ukrainian-owned aircraft have been modernized to the Mu-1 standard. In addition, Ukraine had plans to put into serial production a further, more advanced Mu-2 variant, adapting the MiG to the role of a multi-role aircraft. Unfortunately, only one aircraft was modernized to the standard. So far, the Ukrainians have lost between 19 and 29 MiG-29s, although these losses have been replenished, as a total of 27 MiG-29s have been donated from Poland and Slovakia. Number 6 is the Buk M1. The Ukrainian air defense plays a very important role in defending against Russian aggression. It protects both cities and infrastructure, as well as the troops fighting on the front line. The 9K-37M1 air defense system, known as Buk M1, was put into service in the Soviet Armed Forces in 1983. The Buk M1 allows for the elimination of targets such as aircraft, helicopters, cruise missiles, or unmanned aerial vehicles at a distance from 3,300 meters to 35 kilometers, located at an altitude from 15 to 22,000 meters. The fact that Buk air defense systems in various configurations are used by both sides of the conflict means that destroying or capturing an enemy air defense system is a very valuable trophy. The latest Russian variant, the Buk M3, which entered service in 2016, has a range of 50 kilometers and can engage targets at an altitude of 25 kilometers. However, some sources claim that the range is 70 and the altitude's 35 kilometers. The missiles used in the latest Russian variant, the 9M317M, are also more effective in eliminating targets compared to the 9M38M1 used by the Ukrainians. Interestingly, the Buk M1 was used to shoot down a Malaysian airliner over Ukraine in July 2014. Before the war, Ukraine had 72 launchers. So far, they've lost at least 13 of them. Number 5 is the M777. Developed by the British, the M777 was put into service with the US Army and the United States Marine Corps in 2005. The M777 is currently the most modern and the lightest howitzer in its class. It weighs only 4 tons, which, compared to the howitzer, which it replaced in the US Armed Forces, namely the M198, allows it to quickly take a position and leave it after firing. 2 variants of this weapon have been delivered to Ukraine, the M777C1 and the M777A2. Both variants can shoot very precisely, with an accuracy of 4 meters at a distance of almost 40 kilometers using the M982X caliber GPS-guided munition, which over 7,000 have been delivered. So far, Ukraine has received 152 M777s, of which 32 have been lost. Number 4 is the AHS Krab. The Krab was put into service in the Polish Armed Forces in 2015, although the history of its creation was very turbulent and lasted continuously for 18 years since 1997. It led to the project, which utilizes, among others, a license-built British turret from the AS-90 and a license-built chassis of the South Korean K9 Thunder. Thanks to that, the Krab provides solid protection to its crew during the firing task. Its armor protects not only against NBC weapons, but also against artillery shrapnel and fire from machine guns chambered for up to 14.5mm rounds. Furthermore, the Krab's equipped with modern electronic systems, such as the Topaz Automated Fire Control System or the SSP-1 Obra 3 laser warning system, which is designed to warn the crew when the vehicle is targeted using laser designators and laser rangefinders. So far, 18 were delivered to Ukraine, allowing to equip one squadron. However, the Minister of Defense of Ukraine, Oleksiy Reznikov, announced that Poland has delivered as many as 3 squadrons. That's 54 Krabs. This information's not been confirmed by Poland. Furthermore, this time officially, another 54 were purchased by Ukraine with partial funding from the European Union. Their deliveries began at the end of July 2022. So far, the Ukrainians have lost at least 15 Krabs. Number 3 is the Zuzana 2. The first Zuzana 2s entered service with the Slovak Armed Forces in July 2021. It's a modernized version of the Zuzana-wheeled self-propelled gun, which in turn is a modernization of the Czechoslovak Dana VZ-77. The main armament of the Zuzana 2 is a 155mm gun, which is 52 calibers long. Unlike the previous variant, the Zuzana 2 has a 7 caliber longer barrel, which allowed to increase the maximum range to 41 kilometers when firing base bleed artillery shells. In addition, it's equipped with a new armored cabin. That's why the crew doesn't have to be afraid of small arms fire. Additional changes compared to its predecessors are that its turret can now rotate in full 360 degrees, instead of only 60 degrees as before. Also, thanks to increased automation, the number of crew members has been reduced from 4 to 3. Interestingly, Germany financed the purchase for Ukraine of 255 rounds of experimental precision ammunition, namely the Volcano 155 GLR, with a range of 70 or 80 kilometers, depending on the sources. So far, apart from the Zuzana 2, this ammunition's compatible with the German PZH 2000 and the French César, all of which are present in Ukraine. So far, 8 Zuzana 2s have been delivered to Ukraine from Slovakia. The purchase of another 16 was financed by the Danes, Germans, and Norwegians. The delivery will start this year. So far, the Ukrainians have lost at least one Zuzana 2. Number 2 is the S-300. The S-300 air defense system is used by both sides of the conflict. The Russians mainly use them to combat weapons supplied from the West, such as Storm Shadow, ADM-160 MALD, AGM-88 HARM, or GM-LRS rockets, and GLSDB bombs fired from M270 and HIMARS multiple launch rocket systems. In turn, the victims of the Ukrainian systems are, among others, the most modern Russian aircraft like the Su-30SM, Su-34, and Su-35S, as well as the Caliber cruise missiles, which are launched from Russian territory at the targets, sometimes located deep inside the Ukrainian territory, often in close proximity to the Polish border. The Ukrainian-owned S-300 missiles can engage targets from 5 to 150 kilometers away, and at altitudes ranging from 10 meters to 27 kilometers. Before the war, Ukraine had about 250 S-300 launchers in the PT, PS, and V1 variants. So far, they've lost at least 63 of them. It's worth noting that Slovakia donated its only S-300 PMU battery, which is an export variant of the S-300 PS. Number 1 is the Bayraktar TB2. The Bayraktar TB2 is a male-class medium-altitude long-endurance unmanned combat aerial vehicle, capable of conducting surveillance, reconnaissance, as well as combat missions using guided missiles carried on 4 bomb racks under its wings. The TB2 can stay airborne for up to 27 hours, and the operation range is up to 150 kilometers from its ground control station. In the first months of the war, the Ukrainians were able to use their TB2s to exploit the weaknesses of the Russians in the form of the lack of a sufficient number of air defense systems in the combat zone, often destroying entire columns of their equipment, thus avoiding defeat. However, since then, the front line's been shortened, and the Russians have begun to put more emphasis on providing their units with adequate air defense. That's why the Ukrainian TB2s are currently used only for reconnaissance operations, conducted out of the range of Russian air defense. So far, the confirmed losses are 23 drones.